Well, each week here on CP24 Breakfast, we like to break down stories from the three levels of government with CTV political commentator Scott Reid. Always entertaining, Scott. Thanks for joining us again.
You betcha.
There's so much variety depending on which level of government you're looking at. But let's circle back to this because Justin Trudeau's vacations have sort of come up annually since he became Prime Minister. This most recent one, sort of a $10,000 a night freebie in, was it Jamaica? Or?
Yeah, in Jamaica. Yeah. So it was kind of a hard luck joint.
Again, apparently he ran it by the ethics, I don't know,
He ran it by the ethics commissioner, got pre-clearance, but there's, again, as you know, remember he took the vacation to the Aga Khan's island. That caused all kinds of controversy. It's happened time and time again. This time they clearly, they followed the rules. They went to the ethics commissioner in advance, but his office incorrectly said that he was paying. Really, effectively, it was a donation. Really, he was told he didn't need to pay. He was being put up by his pal. And here's a goofy thing about these rules, okay? So if you're a member of parliament, you can't accept a ticket to a hockey game. You can't go see the Ottawa Senators with a lobbyist. But if someone is deemed to be your friend, then it's a loophole, so you can stay in Jamaica. Here's my thing. In the big scheme of things, this is not a big deal. He did get clearance from the ethics commissioner, but 2023 was such a miserable beating for the Prime Minister. You'd think in 2024, let's get the year off to a bright start. Let's get out of the blocks clean. Now he's going to have to start the year over again because people sitting around in bus stations, coffee shops, bars, going, hey, look at that, look at this. Now they're going to have to get a new start to the year. It's time for the Prime Minister to get out there and do something that is indisputably admirable. Get away from 2023 because, man, if you want a new year, you got to get that in the rearview window.
Okay, well, turning to provincial politics, Scott, provincially there is news, exciting news about an Ontario Honda EV plant worth billions of dollars. So how much for the incentives here? Well,
this is the question, right? So we look at when they put together the deals for Stellantis and for Volkswagen, about $28 billion. I mean, I know that's nothing to you guys. You're rich media people. You're rolling in the dough, right? But, to taxpayers, that's a fair chunk of change. So the question then is, all right, is this evidence that this thing is working really, really well? I'd say cooking with gas, but we're talking about EVs, so I guess that doesn't actually apply. Because we're building this, we're building critical mass. Obviously, not one, not two, but three. We're getting battery plants. This is the future of this industry, and you want to make us a magnet for industry that's sustaining for decades. On the other hand, it's billions and tens of billions of dollars. How much will this Honda plant be? Ontario and the feds will probably team up. They'll put in place a bunch of incentives. I just think it's interesting in these tough economic times, people are feeling beaten down by inflation, that we haven't really had a debate about this. 15 years ago, the idea of corporate welfare was an absolute no-go. But now, this is the orthodoxy. This is how you attract investment. This is how you build industry. And I think it's just going to be interesting to watch politically. If there's any bumps along the road, God help us if any of those companies renege on any of their job commitments, because then there will be hell to pay for the politicians who sign those checks.
And trying to compete with the Inflation Reduction Act south of the border is a challenge for Canadian governments as well. The federal government, of course, Scott, ties into this next one because if Toronto doesn't get about $250 million from the feds, property taxes are likely going to skyrocket in Toronto. That could ruin Olivia Chow's honeymoon.
So here's my idea. I think Olivia Chow should say that she's turning city council into an EV plant, and then she'll be showered with federal and provincial billions. Look, I think what's really interesting is we're going to get the budget numbers later this week. The mayor's office, I think, has been really interesting. Like, I'm a political comms guy. That's my background. I was always comms director to various prime ministers and premiers. I think it's really interesting how they decided to leak news that you're going to get some bad news, right? So we're going to see, it's going to be tough medicine in this budget. We're going to be calling for property tax increases. We're going to have to do that in order to pay our way, in order to argue credibly with other levels of government that we need more. We're going to have to show that we're willing to pay up more. This is going to kick off a big debate at council. It's going to kick off a big debate across the city. And I think even if you believe that this is necessary, and probably we have to increase our property taxes to cover services, but this, I think, is the beginning of the end of the Chow honeymoon, right? She's sort of lived a blessed political life for the last 6 months or so. I think now it gets hard, man. Now it gets hard. You start hiking taxes, that's when your poll numbers start to drop.
And those Toronto Liberal MPs, we'll see how they chime into that side of the equation as well.
They're going to have to, if I was her, I'd be whipping them and putting them right on the spot and saying, hey, I want you in Ottawa, arguing for cash for Toronto.
Okay, so much to watch for. CTV's political commentator, Scott Reid. Always appreciate your time and insight, Scott.
Have a great day, guys.
We'll see you next week. Okay.